Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. Instead of reviewing a movie, I'm going to be talking about Top Gun Maverick. This is a movie I have already reviewed, but now that it's out on digital and everything, and so many people have seen the movie, I kind of want to talk about my love for this movie, and I want to talk about just what makes Top Gun Maverick so special. The thing that kind of prompted me to make this video is actually one thing that I keep hearing people say. And it's that I keep hearing people say about this movie, I wish Hollywood would make more movies like this. Or most recently, I watched somebody do a reaction to the movie, and at the very end of the movie, they said, listen, Hollywood, start giving us movies like this. This is what we want. And I've been hearing those kind of phrases said about this movie basically since it first launched, since it first came out. And I think it's kind of interesting to kind of hear people say, this is the movie we want, and kind of I think it'd be kind of interesting in this video to kind of dive in and kind of explore what exactly people mean by that, while also exploring my love for Top Gun Maverick and kind of understanding why so many people love this movie, and why people seem to think that this is the movie that Hollywood needs to be giving us, and why exactly Hollywood hasn't been giving us this movie. So, for starters, with Top Gun Maverick, I have seen the movie 5 times in theaters, and I think it's important to say the 5 times I saw it in kind of 4 different atmospheres. I saw it in IMAX, I've seen it in Dolby, I've seen it at the AMC Prime Theater, and I've seen it in just a regular standard theater. And I bring all that stuff up because I think it's important to kind of note that in all 4 of those different circumstances that I saw Top Gun Maverick in all 4 of those different types of theaters, I think the movie was the exact same every single time. I thought it was absolutely amazing and never really lost that flair to me. And I bring that up in contrast because I kind of want to talk about a movie, Dune, which came out last year. I saw Dune twice in the theaters. Dune, I saw the first time in IMAX, and I thought it was absolutely incredible. I just like the scope of the movie. It really just kind of brought the movie to life. And then the second time I saw Dune in the theaters, I saw just a regular theater, and it kind of felt like it was missing something. It didn't have this big. It was still a good movie, but it didn't have this like epic feel to it. Then when I go and get Dune on 4K physical media, at the same time, Dune doesn't. It didn't include any IMAX aspect ratios. It kind of felt like this smaller type movie. But no matter where I saw Top Gun Maverick, it just felt like this big, just all-encompassing movie, and it never really felt small, no matter what theater I saw it on. And I think it'd be kind of interesting to kind of dive into that, and why Top Gun Maverick just works no matter where you watch it as a film. The first thing I want to talk about is when people say, you know what, this is the type of movie Hollywood needs to be giving us. This is the movie that Hollywood hasn't been giving us, and so it made $1.3 billion because it's just the movie that we need. But nobody really kind of explains what about this movie is something that we need. There is one word though I hear kind of thrown around a lot, and it's something that unfortunately I feel like has lost all meaning. People will sit there and they'll say stuff like, "Oh well, it's not woke." The problem I have with the word woke is whether it's people trying to call themselves woke or people trying to call other people woke, whether they're calling people woke or calling films woke, it's just that word itself has just lost all meaning because it gets thrown around so much these days that it doesn't really have a meaning anymore. So when I hear people say, well, Top Gun Maverick made all this movie and it's so good because it's not woke, I kind of understand where those people are coming from. Like I understand what they're trying to say is I guess what I should say. I understand what they mean, but I don't think that's the right way to articulate it, because that word it's lost all meaning. What Top Gun Maverick did is what we all basically want from a movie. All right, when at the end of the day, when we go to movies, no matter what movies we want to watch, whether you're into like drama, horror movies, romance movies, action movies, thrillers, we all want to be entertained. And when we go and watch Top Gun Maverick, we all love it because of just how much it entertained us. I mean, you look at the very first Top Gun movie. In many ways, Top Gun Maverick is basically the very first Top Gun movie all over again. Basically the exact same plot points. The scenes happen at the exact same time for the most part, except it's updated, comes out 36 years later, and it's even better than the first movie. But it entertains us because it gives us everything we want in a movie. When we go to a movie, just like Nicole Kidman says in those AMC ads that play right before every single movie at an AMC theater, we come to movies to laugh, we come to movies to cry. And you get that with Top Gun Maverick. You get sad scenes like when Iceman dies. You get these thrill ride scenes when you're in the jets with all our Top Gun pilots. And then you get these action set pieces at the end of the movie when you're going through. It's kind of like Top Gun's own little version of the trench run from Star Wars, and they're flying underneath the SAM turrets, and a big action sequence ensues. And I remember my third time watching Top Gun Maverick in the theaters. There was a girl sitting in front of me, but a little bit diagonal to me as well. She was in the row in front of me, and a little diagonal. And it was at that part where they're attacking the enemy base, and she was kind of like she was on the edge of her seat. Her hand was like this, and I kind of glancing over to her because I thought her reaction was really interesting. You could tell it was the first time she was watching the movie, and every time I glanced over at her, she would have like a different posture. She went from like sitting like this watching the screen to like this to like this. And you could just tell that there was all these different emotions. You know, when she's sitting like this, you can tell that it's like edge of the seat. When she's like this or like this, you can tell that she's worried for our characters. And I bring all that up because what to kind of encompass what everybody's trying to say about Top Gun Maverick, about how this is a movie that Hollywood needs to give us and how it's not something that Hollywood gives us as much anymore, is what I think people really mean is that Top Gun Maverick gives us so many emotions. I mean, just as the film opens up, I mean, just to see, if you've seen the first Top Gun movie, just seeing Maverick again, you become happy, so you feel the emotion of happiness, and you start rooting for him. And then the mission's not going as planned, and you start to feel sad. And then Iceman dies, and it sucks. But then it's all okay because Maverick is able to get back on the mission. Now he's now chosen to fly with his pilots, and now you know what, we're gonna finally see Maverick fly in these jets again and go on a mission, and we start getting happy again. But wait, can't get too happy because, you know, now they're on the mission and there's consequences might happen. Now we got missiles shooting at our characters, and all of a sudden Maverick is hit in the back of the jet. He's going down. We don't know what's going to happen to him, and it's all these different emotions in the once. And that's what I think what really makes Top Gun Maverick so special, is the fact that this movie is able to encompass everything we love about movies into one single movie. We get the highs, we get the lows, and we get the absolute thrills that this movie has. And the way it ends too, like, other than Iceman, I mean, the only other people that are dying are the enemies. I mean, all our characters make it through the movie. And I mean, some people, and even me sometimes, I like when there's consequences, but the thing with Maverick is it just felt different. It just felt like such a powerful, happy ending that, you know what, Maverick made it through, and everything was okay at the end. And at the end of the day, I think that's really kind of what people were really kind of going in for Top Gun Maverick. They wanted to watch a really good movie, and they got more than what they really were wanting to go in and see. I think that's really, truly what makes Top Gun Maverick just absolutely so special, is just the fact that it is able to hit on all those notes. So when you hear people sit there and say stuff like, oh, well, Top Gun Maverick works because it's not woke. As much as I hate that word these days, because it's just lost so much meaning, and it doesn't matter whether someone's calling themselves woke or if they're calling something else woke. It's like a word people just throw out there. Top Gun Maverick really just makes us feel all the emotions that we want to feel when seeing a movie in a theater. And I bring up what I brought up when I was comparing Top Gun Maverick to Dune, because no matter where you watch Top Gun Maverick, it doesn't matter. Yes, it's really good in IMAX, but you can go and watch it in a standard theater, and it's just as good as it is in IMAX. You don't feel like you're missing anything. I went and bought the movie digital just because I don't want to wait all the way until the 4K release comes out, although I do have that pre-ordered as well. And it looks just as good as on my television. It's just a really, really good movie. And it's been a while since I feel like a lot of us have really just gone to a movie and just seen like a straight, powerful movie. We get a lot of Marvel movies these days, right? And a lot of them are just kind of painfully average. Not all of them, but a lot of them are just, they're your average movie. And you get like horror movies that come out, and so many horror movies are just going through the same tropes over and over again. And it's like, okay, we get some jump scares here and there. Okay, I guess the movie was good. But with Top Gun Maverick, you got so much with the movie. And it was such a great theater going experience. I think at the end of the day, when people say that Top Gun Maverick, well, we want Hollywood to make more movies like Top Gun Maverick, I think what people truly mean is we just want more movies. We want Hollywood to give us more movies that make us feel all the emotions that we felt with Top Gun Maverick. We want to feel our hearts racing. We want to feel like, you know, there's impending doom happening. There's moments where we can feel sad, but then right after we start feeling sad, we get uplifted again. And then, you know what? Not every ending has to be a sorrow ending. And yes, there's a time and a place for movies to have, you know, those sorrow endings. Not everything needs to have a perfectly happy ending. But Top Gun Maverick is an example of, you know what, it's okay for everything to completely come together. I always go back to that girl that I saw the third time I watched the movie, and how she was just going through all those emotions right there. And I think that really puts into perspective. You know, Top Gun Maverick really just it was a thrill ride, and at the end of the day, that's what people want from a Hollywood movie. I mean, not every movie. I mean, not every movie needs to be like the thrill ride, but people want to experience emotions. I guess is like the better way of saying it. We want to experience all the emotions, just like when we go to a horror movie, we want to experience that horror. But even in a horror movie, you can't just have nothing but horror. It's always the reason that those, for instance, the reason that those Conjuring movies are so spectacular is because there's great character development. We got their funny moments in the movie, and that's all mixed up with a horror element. It's not just straight horror. What Hollywood needs to do is whenever they make a genre movie, they need to kind of mix every other genre in it as well, kind of make it just a whole well-rounded movie. This is what movies used to be like back in the day. I'm gonna use that phrase, back in the day. 30, 40 years ago, when you watch movies from like the 70s, 80s and stuff, there were some movies that were just straight one genre thing, but so many movies would encapsulate so many different genres and so many different emotions into one movie. Even just look at a movie just as simple as Back to the Future. Back to the Future has so many comedy aspects to the movie, but it's also got good action, it's got good character development, it's got good music, it's got your highs and your lows in that movie. You're like, oh no, you know, Marty McFly's starting to fade away, we don't want him to fade away, and it does all this stuff, and it all, you know, comes together at the end, and it makes us root for Marty McFly. It makes us really love Back to the Future. So I mean, that's just one simple example. But listen, I just thought I'd kind of give a summary of kind of what I think people are trying to say about Top Gun Maverick, but they're just not necessarily articulating quite so well. They're just using certain words like woke or they're just saying, Hollywood, give us more movies like this, but they're not going much further than that. So at the end of the day, Hollywood's been giving us some good movies, but Top Gun Maverick is really a movie that I think Hollywood could really take some notes on, and hopefully they do end up taking some notes on it. But hey, listen, if you made it this far into the video, I'd like to thank you guys for all watching, and I hope to see you back in my next one.